Hello and welcome to podcast number 2 for Digital Craft Factory. My name is Ludo. Today in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create this striking black and white photograph. The end result is extraordinary compared to the original file that I'm going to show you now. The original file was shot in RAW, and it's not this one here, it's that one here. So this was shot as a RAW file. The composition is pretty good, but the exposure is really good too, because you can see the highlights are not blown out and the blackness still here. There's a lot of light tones here, which is the sky here, but nothing has been blown out. However, it just looks really dull. This is not a nice photograph that I want to have hanging on my walls. Instead, I want to have something like this. Okay. There's quite a lot of things to do, but let's get started. I'm going to go back to reset settings and reset it here. Okay. The first thing I want to do, because I know I want a black and white photograph, is click on black and white. Logical and simple so far. Okay, now what I want to do is add contrast and show some details in the foreground, but also I want the sky to be quite dark. Okay, so we're going to use exposure and drag it down like this, and maybe the contrast. So it's just a question of playing with the settings a little bit. I don't really know what I'm going to do here, but let's just try a few things. Okay, I want details in the dark, in the shadows. So I've increased the shadows to plus 100 and decreased the highlights to minus 100 because I want to keep all the details in the highlights and the clouds. Clarity, I tend to leave clarity for the end, so I'm just going to double click here to reset it to 0. And it's not really exciting so far, so increase this. And actually, I want to focus on the foreground a little bit more, on the dark areas. So for now, the sky is a little bit bright, but we can change this later. I quite like it like this. That's quite nice for the foreground. So what I'm going to do now is just use the adjustment brush and go to exposure, reduce to about minus 80, increase the brush, make sure the auto mask is unchecked, feather and flow are set to 100, and just paint to get the sky back. Okay, just like this, and maybe here a little bit. Okay, and if I hold down the Alt key, my brush becomes a minus, and I can increase the size with the roll on my mouse, increase and decrease the size, and with that I can just erase parts of the photograph that I don't want to make darker. Okay, and there's parts here as well on the structure here that I don't want to get too dark. Okay, that's not bad. It's much darker. That's not yet what I want to achieve, but by using more and more brushes we're going to get the results that we want. So I'm going to click new here, and what I'm going to do is increase the contrast for the next brush, increase the highlights because I want the highlights in the cloud, and decrease the shadows to create more contrast, and just try it. So that's a lot darker. Okay, and we're just going to get to the result that we want bit by bit. Okay, but that's a bit too much, so maybe, okay, the contrast, So contrast, you need to, if you increase the contrast, you need to increase exposure really. No, that's not too bad. Shadows. I want to keep the shadows, the highlights, yes, that's fine. So it's not too bad, but I wanted a bit more. So what I'm going to do is use the graduated filter just for the top part of the sky, like this. And what I'm going to do is that's a bit too much. Yeah. Well, this is quite good actually. Yeah, a bit more like this. Okay. I'm going to use my brush again, and this time go to contrast still, and more highlight. Increase the exposure a little bit, and go into the flow here and reduce it to about 50. And just paint and see what it does. It's quite nice, just adds a bit of contrast to the image here. Okay, new, decrease the exposure, actually decrease it to minus, that's about 14. No, I haven't done anything yet. And new. Well, I'm going to increase the flow so you can see what I do a bit better. And what I'm going to do is decrease the exposure a bit more. But not too much. Okay. And in some parts of the photograph I just want to increase the exposure just to add more contrast. It's too much. I'm going to Control Z to undo it. I'm going to do new and just add a little bit here, a bit there. Okay, it's not bad at all like this, it's quite nice, very nice. Now I'll take this point here and just keep doing here. I keep clicking the wrong point, it's the one here that I want. Okay, that's quite a good sky. Maybe an overall graduated filter again, and reduce the exposure. Or add some contrast maybe, and then increase the exposure, just like that. That's quite dramatic, that's quite good. There's a lot of impact here, it's really good. I'm going to leave it like this, add some clarity a bit maybe more. Yeah, clarity is good, but obviously the shadows are too dark. I can reduce the contrast, increase. No, I'll leave it the way it is here. With the highlights too bright. Okay, that's quite a sky. It's really, really nice actually. Okay, click done. What I'm going to do is I want to add some focus to the photograph. I mean, the clouds, the sky is amazing. There's a lot of shadows, lots of highlights. There's this striking sky and there's movement and depth to it. But I want to do the same in the foreground, because the foreground is quite important with the structure, the beach, the sea and the pier. So the easy way to do it is take the brush once again. I'm going to go and click on exposure, increase exposure to plus 0.45. That can be modified afterwards, and just click and drag some sort of halo around the pier and towards the front here. And if that's too much, it's not a problem. What you can do is click the little slider here, and with the left arrow on your keyboard, press once, and it goes to 0.35. For a second time, and it goes to, click on it. Now I went to the previous photograph. That's not what I want to do. So I'm going to go back to my photograph I'm working now. Okay. Click on it, and with the arrow on the keyboard, press left, and it goes to 0.25. That's quite good. What I'm going to do is maybe raise a little bit here to make it blend a little bit more, and press new and do it again, but a little bit less on the smaller amount of the photograph, and then reduce the exposure again. And the idea is just to add a bit of focus on an important part of your photograph, so people are just going to be led through the lines and the highlights of your photograph, and I quite like that. It's quite nice. Okay, I'm going to increase the contrast maybe, and just brush around this part of the sky here. Yeah, that's a lot better. Or here, that's too much, so I'm going to do it and do it again. I'll just do it on this part of the sky. Okay. Like this. It's not bad at all. New, I'm going to reduce that, and I'm doing on this part of the sky here, so it blends a little bit better. Okay, next thing I want to do with the brush is improve the top here of the structure on this side and on that side. So what you can do, I'm going to go quickly here, but what you can do is just increase the exposure and maybe the shadows, and then just click and drag just like that. Okay. Now with the minus brush, just undo that part here, erase that part, make sure the flow is 100%, otherwise it's going to take even more time than needed. Okay, and do the same here, a bit of plus, and brush to add some brightness and highlights to this photograph. To this part of the structure, minus, delete the parts of the brush that I don't want to have in the photograph, just like this. And that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. I'm going to click done. The next thing I want to do maybe is to go to detail. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see on the screen as well as I can, but there's quite a lot of noise because obviously I've changed the tones and darkened the tones of the photograph, so the noise has been added. But because this photograph was shot as a RAW file, I can go to noise reduction and reduce the luminance to about 30, 33 here, and I don't know if you can see the difference, but there's a massive difference here before my eyes. There's almost no noise left in this photograph. There's a tiny little bit, but I'm going to keep it because I quite like it for black and white, but the difference is incredible. If this photograph was a JPEG, it wouldn't look as good. But I want to increase the sharpening as well, so about 75, this is 77. Unfortunately, the sharpening is affecting the sky. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is press and hold the Alt key and move the masking slider towards the right, and everything that is white is going to be sharpened, and everything is black won't be sharpened. So I'm going to put it all the way to 100, and only the structure here and the P are going to be sharpened, which is very practical. Next thing I want to do, there's not much I want to do here. The color noise, this black and white photograph. So lens correction, I'm going to click enable profile correction. Doesn't do much, it's just improve the distortion ever so slightly, very small change here. And finally go to effects, and I want to add some post-crop vignetting here. So I'm going to go to minus 11, 12, minus 12. That's quite good. You see the sky becomes darker. You can leave it like this if you want to, or you can just go to the brush tool and just maybe go to exposure, increase exposure, and the brush, and just brush here to get the sky back here on this side. This is really amazing. I'm going to new brush, click new brush, and then just do other parts maybe if you want to, just like that. And if it's too much, you can reduce here the exposure. I quite like it. I'm going to leave it like this. It's really nice. I'm going to do a minus exposure here, and maybe add a bit of contrast, and maybe brush around here. Just to make it a bit darker, but not too much. So maybe shadows, bring the shadows, and that's it. I think I'm quite pleased with it. So I'm going to press done here, and what we've done basically is we've brought the sky back to what it looked like when I was there. Obviously it was in black and white, but the clouds were so dramatic and there was such huge impact, which is the reason why I decided to take this photograph. It's for the sky, and as you can see, the photograph is about 2/3 is the sky and 1/3 is the foreground. So because the sky is so important here in this photograph, so we've used the brush tool just to add contrast to the sky, and also just to repair bits and add some focus to the photograph. I mean, the power of the sea here is fantastic because it really leads your eyes to the foreground here that is sort of brighter here, and you got a little bit of water here, and it sort of leads the way here and towards the sea, and there's a line here of light, and you go to the pier and then you go to the sky, and there's all these highlights, and it gets a bit crazy but beautiful, and then you just can go back down here where it's quieter for your eyes. So that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next podcast. Thank you very much.